Happy Tuesday, and thanks for tuning in. I am Brian Cristiano, the founder and CEO of Bold Worldwide, and today I'm here to talk to you about digital disruption. Is your business prepared for it? It's something that we've been talking about for a long time, digital disruption. Okay, what does that mean? Well, what it really means is, are you prepared to change the way that you operate? Not just marketing, but your entire business model. Are you prepared, and do you have the infrastructure, and are you ready to leverage data, your own data, as well as unstructured data, meaning data outside of your organization, in a way that gives you an advantage in the marketplace? Or are you going to be a victim to an Amazon of the world, or a Google of the world, or an Apple, where they're playing the game of utilizing data and digital and technology in order to predict how their business should operate tomorrow, a year from now, 5 years from now? That's how they're operating. They're figuring out where do they need to be in a year by utilizing data, by utilizing technology, and then they're adapting their business model. They're adapting their products. They're adapting their go-to-market strategy. They're adapting their marketing based on what their actual customers and potential consumers really want, not what they think that they need. So my question for you is, are you prepared? Are you operating that way? Or are you still running the traditional business model of, let's come up with an idea, let's see if there's a market fit for it, and then let's produce it. Let's then sell it into the market and come up with a campaign and strategy to push it out into the world. They're two very different business models. And the business model that is really dominating today, I mean, just look at the stock market. The business model that is dominating today is a data-first digital technology approach. So are you prepared for this? Well, let me pull up a quick chart for you. This is adapted. This is from some data from Deloitte and a few other really big companies. So this isn't just, my opinion. This is a disruption map. Most companies will be disrupted unless they adapt. And if you look at this chart on the left side, the higher up you are in the chart, your industry is in the chart, the bigger the impact on your business will be because of digital, because of technology, because of data, right? Someone will disrupt these industries, guaranteed. And on the bottom, the farther to the right you are, you might have a little bit more time. But what it is showing us is that every single industry is about to be and will be in the next 1 to 3 years disrupted. Like guaranteed. Guaranteed. I mean, there's no way around this, right? It's not going to happen. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Let me show you something else. This was interesting and one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation today. Let me pull this up. Let me ask you a question. What do these brands have in common? You've got Realogy, you got Whole Foods, Zappos, Twitch, Ring, 206 Collective, Goals, Arabella. What do they have in common? Think about it. I'm sure some of you know. I'm sure some of you have figured it out. They're all owned by Amazon. These are Amazon companies, and every single one of them are driven by data. I mean, Realogy was announced last week. Think about this, right? Like, everyone is really trying to figure out, I have more conversations in Fortune 500 boardrooms where people are saying, well, how do we not play Amazon's game? You must play Amazon's game. Otherwise, you get destroyed and you won't exist and you'll be out of business in 3 to 5 years, probably less. It's how do you adapt and operate like an Amazon? How do you adapt and operate like a Google or an Apple that's using a completely different methodology and utilizing data to actually disrupt different markets? I mean, think about Amazon. People were confused and are still confusion around, why did Amazon buy Whole Foods? Well, now they know what you eat and how much you spend on your grocery bill. And now they can direct ship to you your food. That's pretty powerful because everyone needs to eat. That's not going away. They didn't buy Whole Foods because they just thought it was a good little investment. They bought Whole Foods for the data. And they are reverse engineering that data so they can now ship to you when you need and when you want different food products. Different CPG brands. So that's the actual play. Why did they buy or why did they do this partnership last week with Realogy? Well, because they figured out by looking at the data and by actually listening to what the product, what the marketplace wants, they figured out that, well, hey, This is a space where people, the consumer of real estate, right? You renting or buying property, it's a kind of a crappy experience. But there's a lot of dollars attached to it. Well, so what Amazon is doing, and they're starting to roll out, is, well, why don't you go through an Amazon property, use their partner through Realogy, get your new property, get your new home, and then based on how much you're spending, you're going to get $1,000, $5,000 in Amazon credit to furnish your house. Like, talk about disruption. Because I pretty much can guarantee that in 5 years, 10 years from now, you're not going to buy real estate the way that you do today. You're not going to use a one-to-one broker. You're going to use Amazon or some other similar service. So the question, again, I have to you is, are you and is your business prepared for how drastic of a change this is going to be? And let me pull this slide back up, right? Just look at this. Like media, IT, retail, banking, insurance, professional services, B2B services are going to be absolutely flipped upside down in the next 2 years, maybe less. And then everything else is coming, right? So this isn't an opinion, and this is a fact. This is what the data in the market is showing us and telling us. It's very simple. You just have to pay attention to what the Googles of the world are doing, what the Amazons of the world are doing, and look at their playbook. It's a completely different playbook than the traditional business model. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't play the same game. You must play the same game if you want to not only survive, but you want to dominate in the next 3 years. So are you understanding what's happening in the marketplace, and are you adapting your business practices to mirror that? I mean, when you think about it, data, and if anyone can figure out kind of maybe where the lyrics of this got adapted from, data rules everything around us. Shout out to anyone that knows what that 90s reference is. But it's absolutely true. Let me show you what a typical solution or typical business model looks like. Now, obviously, this is simplified a bit. But typically, the old solution model is, I have an idea. We got a great idea. We think the marketplace wants this. Then we're going to spend time testing that idea, right? That might be with focus groups. That might be selling on a limited supply. That might be asking even friends and family. And that applies to Fortune 100s, by the way. That's not exclusive to small businesses, right? But we can have an idea. Eureka, we've got it. And then we're going to test it some way, shape, or form to figure out, is this a good enough idea? And then what we do is we develop different product lines based on different ideas. And then we sell those into the marketplace. We generate revenue, and then we extract the overhead out of that, and what's left over is our profit. The challenge and the problem with that model, that traditional solution, that traditional business model, is it's based on your hypothesis. And sure, some people's gut is more right than others. I'm not saying that you completely remove ideation, completely remove personal innovation out of the mix. And I'm not saying to not trust your gut, but what I am saying is that in a large-scale mass market, you can't rely on people's intuition. If people are saying, like, it's just a gut feeling, it's just intuition, we're going to come up with this idea, we're going to plow it into the marketplace, we're going to test to see if it works, it's extremely expensive and time-consuming to do that. And that's how 95% of businesses still operate today, because that's how, it's no one's fault, that's just typically how businesses have been created, and they have not evolved. But the Amazons of the world, they're reversing all of that. They're listening to the data of their actual customers. They're listening to the data outside of their customer base, right? Because you can use technology to listen to the conversations outside of your own data. And they're saying, aha, real estate needs this. We're going to solve it. And when you do it that way, when you say, oh, actually, our consumers are buying, women consumers are buying these specific types of leggings. Well, why don't we produce those specific type of leggings? But their complaint is this. Why don't we solve that complaint? Why don't we get it in front of their, these customers? And why don't we give them what they actually want? Because we know they need it. We know they want it. And so we're going to give it to them. That's how Amazon's adapting. That's why Amazon bought Whole Foods, not because of some traditional, EBITDA model. They bought Whole Foods because they were listening to their consumer. And they were saying, the grocery experience has a lot of areas for improvement. Everyone buys groceries every single day. That will never change. But what will change is our ability to actually get to the customer first. And so they bought Whole Foods so they could collect more data so they could understand you and I better about what our eating habits are. What do we need? How much do we spend on what? What coupons actually, what discounts actually drive sales? Not theoretical. Not, okay, we need to move this product, let's discount it 20%. They know what customers are actually willing to pay, without a doubt. And then they take that data. This will continue to evolve. They'll take that data and then they'll adapt another business model on top of it. And so the question again I have for you is, are you thinking this way? Are you a data-first solution model, or are you the traditional, Eureka, we've got it, we're going to spend time testing it? Because that doesn't work. That will not compete in the marketplace in 3 years. There was a quote, I don't have a screenshot of it, but there was a quote from a prominent a business school recently that says that, gosh, I should probably pull it up, but it's more than 50% of all Fortune 500s on the S&P 500 today will not exist in 10 years. They will not exist, right? That's not my opinion. That's just utilizing the data. So if Fortune 500s and the S&P that have unlimited capital are that exposed to technology and digital disruption, are you exposed? Are you just assuming that, okay, the whole Amazon craze will slow down, maybe the government will regulate it, and maybe they do to some extent, but using data, having the ability to have a predictive model, that's what Amazon's doing. They have a predictive model. Your model is probably, let's guess, let's hope we get it right, let's try to keep our expenses as low as possible to test the marketplace, and then if we get it right enough, we'll push it out into the marketplace. That's how most businesses operate. That's time-consuming, that's expensive. Whereas Amazon is using a predictive model, leveraging data to say, what do they want? How do we make that better? How do we give them more than they want? How do we get it in front of them? And how do I prove this beyond a reasonable doubt before I even spend money on it? That's the difference. They can turn on a dime. Think about the scale of Amazon, and they have the ability to enter all these markets almost instantaneously. Why? Because they're using predictive analytics and predictive models to understand what do their customers and consumers want, where's the opportunity in the marketplace, and then they're going after it very quickly, utilizing data in a really smart, agile strategy. Right? The old waterfall methodology takes a long time, it's very expensive, and it's going to hold you back in the marketplace in the next 2 to 3 years. There really isn't another option. You must adapt or you'll be disrupted or probably die. I don't mean to be dire, but it's just the truth, right? So what can you do about this? What you need to do is you need to have a roadmap. You need to build a strategy and understand your current state. Where are you today? Really, not where you think you are, not where you want to be. Where's your business actually today? What data do you have? What data do you have access to? What data are you not utilizing? What are your systems? What are your people? What are your processes and technology that you are and are not leveraging? And then coming up with a roadmap and a strategy for the next 1 to 3 years on how do we go from the current state of where we are into this new predictive model, into this new adaptive model. It's all about changing the strategy and making it very flexible and adaptable along the way, right? Because here's the interesting part about utilizing data in the strategy and being agile is, you can come up with a new strategy today, and in a year or 2 years, 3 years, you're going to realize that strategy no longer works. So you're going to have to start over and come up with another Eureka idea. Versus having a roadmap that is flexible, that adapts as the data and information changes so that you stay on course to where you ultimately want to take the business. You're rowing in the same direction of where you ultimately want to grow towards, but then you're adapting slightly, you're bobbing and weaving based on the new information that you're collecting, based on how consumer buying habits continue to evolve and change. So it's really about analyzing and assessing the current state of your business, understanding where you are today, and then figuring out what is that ultimate state, where are you trying to get to, where you're at A today, where's B supposed to be for you, and then developing a roadmap and a strategy, an agile strategy to get there. There is no other way, right? You can come up with brilliant ideas all day long, but in Amazon and Apple and Google, they're 5 years, 10 years ahead of you. So you have to play that game. The new game is leveraging data, understanding and listening to the population of your consumers or potential consumers. We were working with a client a couple of weeks ago, and we found new avenues for new customers they thought they would never serve. But what we found was, once we actually went through this process and we listened to the marketplace, we said, well, actually, what you do here, if we change it slightly, there's an entirely new market over here. And so that's what we've adapted over the last couple of weeks. And now they're targeting an entirely new marketplace that they never had before, that's opening up all new revenue streams based on what the data is telling us. And it's in the margins are much higher because we don't have to create this intense, heavy sales force up front. We're leveraging data, we're leveraging technology, we're leveraging digital marketing in order to actually put it in front of the right people at a low cost, high output, high return strategy. And so it can be done for you. And again, you have to be thinking this way. You must leverage your data. You must have a roadmap into the next 2 or 3 years, or an Amazon or some other competitor will come along and they'll use the new methodology. They'll be agile. They'll listen to data. They'll listen to what the customer wants. They'll find new markets. And then they'll disrupt your business. And then you're constantly playing catch up. Right? So my takeaway for this would be, you absolutely need to assess your current state. Understand, what technology do you have today? What data do you have today? How are you using that data? How are you not using that data? And what are the people and the processes in between all of that so that we can remove the friction? And where's the gap between today and being a data-first organization that's really flexible, that's connecting these elements of technology, that's connecting these elements of your story, that's connecting these elements of actual business process to get to where you are dominating your industry in 3 to 5 years, not playing catch up. So listen, I appreciate your time. I have to jump off in a second here, but if this was helpful, let me know. If you have questions, let me know, comment. And if we can help you in your business, just reach out to me or someone on my team at Bold Worldwide. Listen, I appreciate it. Stay on top, listen to this stuff, and don't read the headlines. Really dig below. That's what I'm trying to do here, is give you some information below the surface. What's really happening? Not what are the headlines telling you. What's happening with the data? What's happening actually in new business today? And how can you utilize that information to become a bigger success and get where you want to go? Listen, I appreciate it. I'm Brian Cristiano, founder and CEO of Bold Worldwide, and I'll continue to deliver more of this. Let me know what you thought and reach out to us at any time. Appreciate you.